Hi, let's continue our list of common issues and solution as a patch 2. As you know that our previous video we're talking about also a list of issues solutions as a patch 1. So let's start our patch 2 today. First issue is that when attempting to post a journal in application as user interface, the following error occurs: cross validation rules error. This issue can be reduced that you log into Fusion, General Ledger, Journals, create journals, enter details, try to post. This issue occurs if the system is not able to generate retained earning account for new balancing segment. In case of you add a new balance segment and due to cross validations, so the system cannot be enabled generate REA. Solution that system is not able to generate REA for new balance segment. So for example, if retaining accounting is these combinations, which is 101 is a balancing segment value, journal is having the same, another BSV which is 1000 as of this one, posting job will try to create combination of the new one which is 100. The old one is 1000. Because the balance segment value of retained earning account is different from BSV of the journal lines, but when creating combination of these, which is it might be failed due to cross validation rule. If CVR is blocking dynamic creation of retained earning account, then validate whether CVR can be disabled and posting the G or journal. So you have to, CVR is blocking dynamic creation. Means what? During create the keyflex field, chart of account values, blah blah blah, you enabled the dynamic creation. Dynamic creation that the users can create or choose any values. This balance segment with this account, blah blah blah. But in case of you enable CVR, so it's well blocking dynamic creation. So in this case, you have to either disable CVR and again try to post the GL journal. And also it's not only for REA. In general, you have to make a comparison between CVR, which you are implemented, and the dynamic creation. Dynamic creation is not working with CVR. So CVR will make like priority 1 during create journals, transfer journals, whatever. So you have to check first CVR, either you updated or disabled to complete the posting of journals successful. Issue 2 here, we cannot enter retained earning account in specify ledger option. As you know, to implement a ledger, the first point after value set, deploy, blah blah blah, you go to what? Specify ledger options. One of these required option is REA account. In some of cases, you cannot enter this REA. There are a lot of reasons. One of them that I log out and re-log in again. Another reason that I change the browser. I wait sometimes. I don't know, this is not a logic, but this is what I faced. But another thing is like here, the chart of account was deployed to sandbox. So you have to delete sandbox that you use. Again, redeploy chart of account and retest in specify ledger options. Make sure you delete the sandbox and not just exit. Because once you create sandbox, you have a lot of options: publish, not publish, exit, delete. So in this case, you have to delete it, not just exit. Issue 3 here, does the retained earning account balance updated not have functionality to reference that account combination is disabled in the dated alternate account? As you know, there is one option as alternate account in the chart of accounts. Alternate accounts that in case of you are going to disable exist value, you can pass alternate account. So during create the accounting, the system will check this account is disabled. So do you put alternate account, if you put, so the system it will alternate all of the journals which is related to this disabled value to this alternate value. So what about this functionality mechanism with REA? As you see here, GL return account update in new fiscal year doesn't use alternate account. For example, if you specify REA for this account, GL dynamic insertions which is not enabled, GL account combination this is entered and saved. GL code combination this is disabled and end dated. For example, with this date. Alternate account which is 0019, this combination is added and saved. Added as what? As alternate account for this account. Transaction is created and posted. Company 0019 has, for example, this debit to expense. When GL accounting period is opened, one expense is transferred to RE account 0019. So when GL accounting period January is opened, 1000 is transferred to this account. So alternate account defined on the manage account combination page are used specifically by subledger create accounting, as well as GL journal import. What does it mean? That subledger create accounting program or GL journal import may sometimes fail due to having transferred data into GL on invalid account on that was recently disabled or inundated. To help avoid such errors, GL provides feature of alternate account which gives the users opportunity to set up replacement code combination for an invalidated one, allowing the mentioned program to continue until successful completion. Retained earning account doesn't use alternate account, so don't try to put alternate account for the GL code combinations for REA. Just working for subledger and journal import, which is these transactions come like from subledger, from legacy system, whatever's into GL. It's not direct in GL. And also to be in safe side, don't create any alternate account for REA as a retained earning account. What next? Create account for payables cloud on an intercompany invoice ends up is warning, like no account combination are populated on the balancing line for the create accounting output. Subledger journal entries doesn't balance in one or more of the entered currencies. That no entered currency balancing account was provided for your ledger. The journal is not balanced by entered currency. So you must define entered currency balancing account for the ledger or ensure the journal is balanced by entered currency. As you know, there is one entered currency balancing account during you specify ledger options, so you can define it or ensure that this journal already balanced by the entered currency. So what is the cause that chart of account structure dynamic combination is allowed or is dynamic combination creation allowed is unchecked for accounting flexibility structure. All account combination created by intercompany balancing rules are not already listed in the defined chart of account for respective accounting structure used. Since the dynamic combination creation was also not allowed, the system was not able to auto-populate account combination as a part of create accounting process. So dynamic combination creation is not enabled for the account flexibility structure. Chart of account doesn't have all possible list of account combination which can be created from the intercompany balancing rules in the specific accounting combination derived by the rule of these transactions. Solutions: you have to navigate to the define common combinations or application configuration of financials to define enterprise structure of finance, reporting structure, define a chart of account, manage account combination. Select chart of account, click search, select create a spreadsheet, select open, connect and login with credentials, enter a list of combinations to be uploaded, click submit and OK. So because of system cannot create this code combination of intercompany, you have to upload this manage or all of the code list of code combinations through manage account combinations, spreadsheets, or manual, but it's better to through spreadsheets. So after you upload it, just try to create accounting for all of the payables companies on intercompany invoice. What next? Accounting date journals from subledger journal entry is not the date which is used in GL for posting entry. For example, you make a transaction in subledger with January 2020. When you try to transfer and posting in GL, you find that the date is changed. Why is the accounting date from subledger journal is not the date which is used in GL? Solution: you have to check SLA setup. Accounting option in SLA setup of these subledgers would have been to set summarize by GL period instead of summarize by GL date. Through what? Through manage subledger accounting options, there is one option for summarize. You have to modify SLA options for the accounting setup of this journal source. Select summarize by GL date to allow the date to be sent to GL for the transaction date instead of for the end of period date. This setting is controlled by SLA and by for each subledger. So this is the case that you have to check the summarize. Is it summarized by GL period, summarized by GL date? So you have to select it by summarized by GL date to allow the data sent with the transaction date instead of in the date of the period. What next? Receipt accounting journals not posted to GL due to fund reservation failure. Receipt accounting means our procure to pay cycles, PR, PO, receipt. After that, you have to create accounting to transfer all of the journals which is related to the receipts to GL. In some cases, once you transferred, try to post, you found one fund reservation failure. Journal entries are not transferred to GL from receipt accounting. It should transfer the journals from receipt accounting to GL. Setup reproduced what? Just create accounting for receipt accounting. Transaction are final accounting, but few journals what still not transferred in create accounting execution report. As you know that for any create accounting you run, there is one create accounting execution report will be run also as a sub process of the create accounting. So through this execution report you can check the status, either issues not transferred what. So in some cases you will find view journals which is related to receipt accounting not transferred. Cause reservation related fund failure for the receipt accounting because the issues what fund reservation failure. So user can make what you can make as a workaround to post the journals. Just manage budgetary control encumbrance accounting, financial manage budgetary control, search for ledger, select row to edit, just in budgetary control exceptions, add a row with journal source what this is receipt accounting. So you have to add receipt accounting category deliver. Check different values available here, save the changes, post the GL batch. So this is like a workaround to complete the transferred and the posting of this stock not sum of journals which is related to receipt accounting. What next? Auto post. Auto post is a process to generate auto posted instead of manual post of the journals in GL. The problem is the auto post process is not selecting. Once you run auto post, it must select some of journals based on some criteria, source, categories, period, blah blah blah. In this case, is not selecting any GL journal for posting. Customer has journals should be picked up and posted by auto post. Process run, multiple journals flagged as needed, but didn't post. After addressing the errors, patching auto post was run again and the journal were not again posted. For auto post to post all journals that meet the auto post criteria. As we said before, for each auto post there is some criteria, so these journals must meet auto post criteria set. Business impact, that the issue of the following impact, that due to these issues user will need to manually post journals that are flagged as needing attention. Cause that either invalid or incorrect data in the available periods. The period should be open before running auto post, because journals cannot be posted to a closed period. This will cause the journals batch to be marked as needing attention. Auto post will not post journals that are marked as requires attention. This intended functionality because the errors need to more addressed before it can be posted by the customer. So the period should be opened before run any auto post, because again journals cannot be posted to any closed period. This will cause the journals batch to be marked as needing attention. Auto post will not post again journals as required or marked as require attention. What is the next? Fusion AB offset tags. Offset tags, this is one options of our setup tags. So for some reasons, once you implemented the offset tax is not calculated at invoices level. What you set up done: tax regime, tax status, rate, rules to derive tax rates, create invoice with line that complies to the tax rule. Standard tax rule code is calculated if offset tax rate code is not calculated. So offset tax through specific rate, you enabled offset tax based on some of conditions which you created through tax rule. Setup configuration tax option cannot be done for global configuration owner. Again, configuration owner tax options cannot be done for global configuration. It's only for what? Legal entity and business unit owner. Solutions: setup to resolve new offset tax definition with tax type offset tax, create new tax rate in this new offset tax, link the normal tax rate code with the new offset tax rate code. Configuration tax owner: for the configuration owner must be what? Business unit name, not global configuration. Allow offset tax basis ship from party, because this is, as you know, we have ship from, bill to, ship to, and so on. Regime determine, you have to make a determination set, which is tax applicable tax regime, not using direct tax rules based on tax classification code. So what is the reason? Configuration owner tax option. What else? Tax is not calculated when validated. This is a normal tax. You finish it and try to validate invoice. Tax is not calculated. Tax applicability value is not applicable. So you have to navigate manage tax configuration, manage tax rule defaults. So this is the reason that tax is not calculated when validated AB invoice data. This tax applicability is not able to update after you click on enable tax for simulation and enable tax for transaction. So you have to need to create new tax or set up tax applicable rule. And also, once you complete the tax, just check the checkbox of allow tax applicability for the manage setup tax, because as you know, once you complete the tax setups, you have to enable this checkbox to tell the systems that this tax is now enabled for our all transaction. What next? End-dated and disabled tax lookup code from this lookup code are still visible under tax classification in invoice creation user interface. Tax classification code, this is one of our inputs during create the invoice, which is invoice line and so on. Once you disabled this tax classification, the user still see, or these values is still visible for the users. End-dated and disabled tax lookup code should not be available. The issue can be reproduced that you end the date and the disable tax lookup from this lookup, because as you know, we have a lot of lookup code, input, output, withholding, and so on. You have to create invoice, end the date and disable tax lookup code are still visible. This is reproduced of this issue. Business impact: the issue has the following business impact. Due to these issues, users are confused because whatever is enabled, the value, and the disabled is visible. So by wrong, he can select one of which is disabled, and so on. This issue caused be following setup. Text lookup code are end-dated and disabled. They should only be end-dated. What does it mean? Don't make disable. Just put end-dated. Go to manage text lookup code. Search for lookup type for text ZX input, ZX output, ZX withholding based on this classification code which is related to which lookup type. Then re-enable disable lookup code but leave them end-dated. Test in a user interface of AB invoice. Again, just keep it with end-date. Remove this disabled checkbox. Again, re-enabled whatever is disabled before. What next? How can user disable the text classification code? Occasions there may be a requirement to absolute text classification code. To stop it appearing in the list of value of text code, the solution is to disable this code. Setup is just manage text lookup code. The following lookup code, as we said, input, output, expenses, withholding. To disable lookup code, ensure that enabled box doesn't contain a tick. As shown in this is search for manage text lookup code. Search whatever the lookup you need and disable this checkbox. If you only want input text classification to no longer appear, you will need to disable both input and web expense, because this related to what? Related to payables and the expense. Which is input, because we have two type of tax: input, which is payable and expenses, and output, which is receivable. So this and this. Input, why? Because once you pay the supplier and pay also tax amount, you can ask after that the tax authority to pay back this amount to you. But in receivable, why the name is output tax? Because the customer will pay you the tax amount. After that, the tax authority will ask you to pay back this amount to it. This is the difference between input in payable, output in receivable. What next? Tax calculation fair error this when validating invoice. To be matched invoice not validated. Change orders were created to the purchase order, which made the item 0 for the original distribution. Did split to create new distribution of the item. Template to cancel and re-enter result in same error. This error has occurred, which case tax calculation to fail has occurred which caused tax calculation to fail. This issue is caused by that invoice matched to BO at the line cannot be split at the distribution due to one-to-one mapping between BO line to invoice line. When matching invoice line, you will get pop-up message: the multiple distribution. This document has multiple distributions. Continue to prorate the amount across all distributions or cancel to allocate purchase order distribution. So while matching invoice line to BO line, if you got the warning multiple distribution message, you have to select cancel, select allocate distribution button. In the allocate BO distribution window, enter quantity or amount field to the distributions that has an amount, not the one with 0. Select OK. Match invoice line window, select OK. Calculate again tax and validate. What next? When you run process of create accounting and receive payment, the process ends in the entered amount, and the accounted amount must be the same when the entered currency is the same as ledger currency. This is message step 2 perform. Steps means what? You have to follow the next step, that you have to create invoice with currency USD, payment USD, create a payment with payment currency USD from this bank. Do a bank reconciliation for the payment from this bank. This will generate a clearing entries. This task can be accessed from cash management. Overall, there will be three sets of accounting: invoice, payment issue, which is payment accounting, and payment clearing, which is bank reconciliation. After doing the above, again check the accounting entries and let me if you facing any issues in any of the above steps. What does it mean? That you have to follow these steps to generate accounting succeeded or successfully without any issues. Also, we are assuming that accounting of payment is set up as both and not only issue or only clearing. This can be checked in the setup option of accounting for payment. As you know, there is one setup payment options. This for payment options, there is one accounting of the payment. You have to select both issue and clearing, not only issue or only clearing, because in this case you create payment as the issuing and go to cash management to make a reconciliation. So the accounting option must be what? Issue and clearing. What next? How to sweep unaccount transactions to next open period. You must see process exception like costing period blah 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 for this transaction is not open. Cost accounting period is closed. User has to create backdated transactions. Now this transaction as used or showing as unaccounted in review cost accounting distribution for the close period. How to sweep this transaction to be unaccounted in the next period. For example, the December, and you need to make it as sweep for the next, which is January 2020. So the costing period for this transaction is not open. So system will not sweep transaction if the GL period is open. It will show an error for the transaction if costing and GL general ledger period are post closed. Then the system will automatically sweep them to the next period. Whenever the GL period is closed, the system will account the transaction accordingly. So it's recommended costing period is closed before you proceed with GL period closure. What is next? Period end accrual reversal, journals not getting transferred to GL. Period end accrual reversal are not getting transferred to GL even when create accounting program is scheduled to run every day. Solutions: Excel create accounting entries and create accrual reversal accounting both have parameter transfer to GL. When user runs the program, value can be set to yes. If user choose no to transfer accounting entry to GL for above program, user can later run post journal subledger journal entries program to transfer all journal entries to GL. Corresponding GL period has to be in open status for above 3 programs to run. Users should always make sure to run period close exception report to review open transactions before closing the period. This is for the cost accounting process. What next? Why does payable subledger period close exception report contain incomplete status transactions? In the report, there are manual journals of adjustment having source payables. This must be created through payable invoice. Create adjustment journal with below parameters as a category adjustment and completion status incomplete. These manually created journals were never posted. Subledger period close exception report is just listing these entries so users can act on them, count them if needed. This is actually the rule of this report by design. As you know, there is one create adjustment journals through subledgers. This is one of them through payables, invoices, create adjustment journals for a category is adjustment. Instead of do it in GL, you do it through subledger, in this case as a payable. Its completion status with incomplete. So just from payable invoice, review journal entries and input parameter in the search, payables, adjustment, manual, status incomplete. Use view to add all column to check about this record of these journals which is still not incomplete. So you have to complete it because not showing again in the period close exceptions. So in case of you found incomplete status transaction in these periodic close exceptions reports, what does it mean? That sum of adjustment journals is created with status incomplete. So you have to either delete, either complete, to disable or to not appear again with you for this exception report. Accrual reconciliation report doesn't show all account payable events. This report is executed for the purpose of what? Reconciling account balance between BO module and the major book. Through what? Run accrual reconciliation reports. Mandatory rules. What is the problem in this case that not showing all account payable event? Mandatory rules not added for the use, which is this GL general account, cost accounted, account payable manager. So you have to add these rules to the users who running accrual reconciliation report. What next? When you run prepare payable to GL reconciliation process, we checked payable to ledger reconciliation report and invoice accounting detail, and the invoice detail show different transactions. Invoice accounting detail report only show transaction for account this one. Invoice detail shows more transactions that include more payable account. Due to this, we have unbalanced amount between invoice accounting detail and invoice detail shows more transaction more than this account. So this is what there is missing, that the user has not selected any account during data extraction. Also, there is non-financial category setup for payable. As you know, for prepare payable to general ledger, there is a lot of steps is required. So one of them is financial category. You have to assign financial category to the segment values, for all of the account which is related to payable. After you assign this financial category, again rerun the extraction program. What next? User have 3 business unit in same ledger. User trying to reconcile payable to GL ledger separately for each business unit. Run 3 different prepare payables to general ledger reconciliations for business unit 1, 2, 3. When viewing each of the output in the payable to ledger, payable amount shows only the values for each business unit, but the accounting amount column always shown only full amount across all business units. How can carry out separate reconciliation for each individual business units? In order to do reconciliation by business units, in addition to filtering on business unit, the user must filter on the balancing segment value associated with the balancing unit when submit SS job. Otherwise, accounting amount won't match with the payable amount. User should be able to select balancing segment on the account parameter prior to submitting the job. So it's like a combination business unit with a balancing segment in case of you need to get result as a separate by business unit. What next? That payment from EB to GL reconciliation process is not matching with payable payment register. The payment register shows voided payment, but EB to GL doesn't show voided payment. So payment register report should not use to match. So because what AB to GL report show net amount of all payment account, included also the void payment, while post payment register shows the total amount positive values of all payment created and accounted. So you have to run post payment register report instead of payment register. So you have to just report and analytic, shared folder, financial payable, period close, post payable payment register. Use this report along with to reconcile between Oracle Vision payables and your general ledger. Which one? Payable post invoice register, payables trial balance report, payable to ledger reconciliation report. What next? Why non-payables begin balance in EB to general ledger is showing amount from other years. The report's non-payables begin balance drill down displays data from the accounting date of the current fiscal year and before the period for which the report is submitted. So it's included journals line from the accounting date of the current fiscal year as well as from prior periods for reconciliation. displaying data from previous year in the non-payable beginning balance is an intended functionality. Intended functionality means you cannot remove it, you cannot control it, maybe now, but in the futures you can do it. I just need to tell you that for any issues you have to investigate, you have to follow, you have, for each issues maybe there are a lot of reasons, not only one reason. So you have to investigate, try and try, either in test first and productions. By the end, if you didn't try to resolve it, just try to create or raise SR with Oracle to give you the recommended solutions, either by patch or profile options or whatever. Thanks for watching. Good luck.